Hello, good afternoon, Nash County Public Schools. We are so excited to have you all on the line with us for this session this afternoon, and we have a lot to get to. So I will go ahead and get us started. My name is Claire Renaud, and I am leading the work in Nash County Schools alongside Ashley Williams, who you'll hear from in just a little bit, and Chloe. There is a slide where I will introduce us all. But we are so excited to see you all here. And what you see on the screen right now is a little do now as people join the session. So if you could use a stamp on the annotation feature and just mark any stamp, could be the check mark, the star, the heart, whatever you would like on this sort of continuum, the left side being just telling us how much you know about opportunity culture. So the left side being, I don't know anything about opportunity culture, which is fine. We're here today to tell you more, all the way to, I am an expert on opportunity culture. If you could go ahead and drop that stamp or put it in the chat as we wait for a few more people to join. Awesome. So I see we have quite a few people on who are ready to learn more about OC today, which is great. Go ahead and take about 10 more seconds to drop where you fall on this slide. Great. So it seems like we have one expert, maybe a principal or someone on the district design team, or maybe one of you all knows a lot about opportunity culture and has done your research, which is awesome. I will go ahead and clear this screen and we will get started. Or if one of my colleagues could clear the screen, that would be great. Okay. So again, welcome to this information session. We are so excited to have you all on and share more about opportunity culture launching in Nash County Public Schools. Like I said, my name is Claire Renaud, and I'm so excited to be here with you today and to have had the opportunity and continue to have the opportunity to work with the district and the schools to design and implement OC. But with that, I will pass it off to Dr. Ellis to share a welcome.
So good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone to our information session today concerning a new district initiative. As a superintendent, I am very excited about the opportunity culture. Just the basics of when our best teachers can reach more students, but also be paid for this service is just a win-win. So again, thank you for your interest in this new endeavor, and I also want to thank you for everything you do for Nash County Public Schools. So let's get rolling.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Ellis. All right, yeah, let's get rolling. So right now we are in the welcome, and you'll see how we'll spend our time together. So like I said, quite a bit to cover, so I will keep moving along. But a little bit about Public Impact, the organization that we are a part of, who is partnering with Nash County Public Schools to implement opportunity culture. You'll see here a bit more about our why and really who we are. So our why is really grounded in our mission. And so as an organization, we strive to improve education dramatically for all students, especially low-income students, students of color, and other students whose needs have historically not been well met. And so our focus as an organization is formulating and helping educators implement really bold solutions for kids. So not interested in maintaining the status quo, but making dramatic change and pretty urgent and immediate change in schools and in districts for the students. And so just wanted to start with that and just sort of ground in who we are, since you'll be hearing a lot from us today about opportunity culture. And then this is the Public Impact team who is working with Nash County Public Schools. So like I said, my name is Claire Renaud. We have Ashley Williams and Chloe Karlovich on the line. Ashley is a client manager alongside Kendall King. And then Chloe has been working closely and will be working closely with Inglewood and Winstead Avenue. And then our colleague Erin is on vacation this week, but she is working closely with Williford, Edwards, and Parker. And I just mentioned these schools, but just so you see it, here are the 5 schools that are in the first cohort for Nash County Public Schools Opportunity Culture. So we are so excited to be partnering with Williford, Winstead, Inglewood, Edwards, and Parker. And we are in the process of making these really important decisions to design these roles, as Dr. Ellis shared, to provide teachers with opportunities to stay in the classroom and get paid more money for reaching more students, and for students to have access to more excellent teaching. So these are the 5 schools in the first cohort. And we are so excited to talk more about opportunity culture and continue the work with these schools. And then the last sort of housekeeping thing is our parking lot. So of course, if you have questions, you can use the chat feature and we'll be monitoring that. But ideally, please put your questions in this parking lot. Chloe will be monitoring it very closely and answering your questions as they come into the parking lot. So she will drop that link now. And the district also can get into that. So if there are more district specific questions, they will also be monitoring the parking lot and can answer those there. And so if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat, but really it would be great if you use that parking lot since we'll be closely monitoring it. Awesome. And with that, I will pass it off to Ashley.
All right, thanks, Claire. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Awesome. So let's dig into some details around opportunity culture. You all are here today to learn more about the OC roles and what they will look like in Nash County Public Schools. Your district team has been hard at work thinking around what these roles could look like and what exactly the students and staff of Nash County Public Schools need in order to reach high levels of achievement and growth. All right, so Nash County is choosing to implement opportunity culture for equitable access for students. So OC is really focused on making sure that every single student has an excellent teacher every single year. We really believe that that is what is needed to move the needle for student achievement and student growth. But there's also this other component around teacher recruitment, support, and retention. And so as you all know, teaching is one of those fields that really doesn't have a career ladder. You know, once you're a teacher, there's really not many places to go outside of working in administration or maybe instructional coaching. And so this is really used as a tool to retain your greatest teachers and to keep them where they belong in the classroom to have the greatest impact on students. All right. And so here are some common challenges that we see in schools, and a lot of these speak to the reasons why many districts seek out opportunity culture. And so what we know is that we often see teachers who are working in silos or they're working alone. And sometimes this is not because they want to, but they just don't have enough consistent support for their specific content areas or their grade levels. We also see some excellent teachers who we know are rock star teachers, but they don't have any greater reach than other teachers, meaning we keep them to their classroom and they don't really see any of the other students in the school building, even though we know they are really great teachers. We also see students who lose teachers to district jobs and careers that pay more. We also see too few students who are experiencing excellent teaching consistently. And we also see in many schools that principals are just stretched too thin with way too many responsibilities. You know, the average principal is responsible for all of their staff members, which could be 20 teachers, 30 teachers, it could go up from there. And what we see in other industries is that that really does not happen. So in other industries, managers have a ratio of, you know, 1 manager to about 5 direct reports. And in schools, it's 1 principal to really as many teachers as they have. And so ways that opportunity culture helps, we actually help to extend the reach of the excellent teachers in your schools by helping them to support and lead small teams. When this happens, what we see is that the principal, instead of having to stretch all the way to every single classroom, we actually see them move into this model of distributed leadership, where they are able to lead those multi-classroom leaders or those expert teachers who then support small teams of teachers. What we've seen with this model is that students are able to gain consistent access to excellent teaching, meaning that every year that they have an OC educator, they are able to get access to that rockstar teacher that everybody knows in the building. We also see great teachers advance and lead from the classroom while earning more to do so. And so we're now creating this career ladder, giving teachers options to remain in the classroom by extending their reach and getting paid more to do so. We also see teachers get daily support from those teacher leaders who know their students. So they are right there on the ground with them, giving them the support that they need. All right. And so this is a model that I personally believe in, having served as a multi-classroom leader in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. And I'm really excited that you all are going to have access to this in Nash. All right, so a few OC principles that I would love to just update you all on. So first thing to know is that opportunity culture is not a program. I think it's really important for us to say this because oftentimes we see programs that kind of come and go and they don't really stick around for long. Opportunity culture is instead a commitment. And schools and districts that work with us really make a commitment to these 5 principles. And so they are committing to reaching more students with excellent teachers and their teams. They're committing to paying teachers more for extending their reach, which is super important because oftentimes in a school building, teachers will naturally take on more responsibilities without getting paid more. We are making sure that teachers actually get paid more for teaching more students or for extending their reach to other teachers. We're able to fund that pay within regular budgets. So this means that it's going to be sustainable year after year. We don't want this to be something that is here one year and gone the next. And so we really focus on funding this pay within the regular school budget to make sure that it's sustainable. We also commit to providing protected in-school time to do this work. And so we work closely with schools and their teams to really define what their schedules will look like so that this work can happen during the regular school day for that collaboration and development time. And then finally, schools and districts that commit to OC are committing to matching authority and accountability to each person's responsibilities. What this means is that, those expert teachers or multi-classroom leaders are held accountable for the success of those teachers and those students that they are responsible for. All right, and so here are the 3 main roles that Nash County Public Schools is rolling out this fall. And our goal is to build a complete opportunity culture that makes sense for your district, to have an impact on student learning, their social emotional needs, and everything in between. And so we have a multi-classroom leader role. That was that expert teacher that you heard me referring to a while back. You all are also going to have a team reach teacher and a master team reach teacher role, as well as a reach associate. All right, so first let's dig into this multi-classroom leader, often called an MCL. This is the cornerstone of opportunity culture. This is a teacher who has a track record of high growth student learning, meaning they have a history of really getting good results with students. And so this multi-classroom leader is responsible for really leading their team through instructional planning, data analysis. They could pull small groups of students throughout the day, modeling instruction, co-teaching alongside their teachers, observing and giving feedback. There's a whole host of responsibilities, but I will say the one thing to know about the MCL role is that it is very much still student facing. And so when I was a multi-classroom leader, I had times where I was coaching teachers and things like that. But one of my biggest responsibilities was making sure that I was meeting with students to really help them to grow and to learn. All right. So here's what a day in the life of an MCL looks like. They do observe as well as debrief that observation with teachers. We call this a coaching cycle. They also lead their team. So this could look like really planning those PLC meetings, meeting with their PLC team on a weekly basis, making sure that instruction is really tight and standards aligned, as well as really thinking through data from recent assessments to make sure that that instruction is responsive. Providing in-class supports. So this could look like some of those things that I just mentioned, which could look like co-teaching alongside teachers or pushing in to support students. Then of course, teaching students directly. That is very important to the MCL role and responsibilities. So there's going to be two types of MCLs in Nash County Public Schools. Those two types are a partial release MCL and a full release MCL. So you all remember that I said that teaching was very much still a part of this role. So the partial release MCL, this is an MCL that still has a classroom of record. So they split their time between teaching their own class and between supporting teachers on a designated team. They are going to use a reach associate or flexible scheduling to get that release time to support those teachers. They are still accountable for the results of their own students as well as their team teacher students. And so that is the partial release MCL. The full release MCL, this is an MCL that does not have a classroom of record, but they still continue to teach part-time in their team teachers classroom. So this could look like pushing in to pull small groups of students. It could look like really having a flexible group that you pull based on data every few weeks. It could really look creatively. They are still accountable for the results of all of the team's students. All right. And they could have a reach associate that supports them, but I would say that that reach associate is most necessary for that partial release MCL. All right. So what do we know about MCL teams? We have a few studies that were conducted independently around opportunity culture and the results for students. What we know is that teachers who start at the 50th percentile for reading and math, after being on an MCL's team, they are able to grow substantially. So for reading, they're able to grow to the 66th through 89th percentile, and for math, through the 69th to 85th percentile. This equates to extra learning for students, really helping them to catch up and get high results. Take a few moments just to process this slide. And then go ahead and respond in the chat and let us know what excites you about this data and what do you notice about this data? Take about 30 more seconds. What excites you about this data and what do you notice about this data? All right. So student growth, support for all teachers to become highly effective. Exciting that it's student-centered, definitely. Knowing that there's more opportunity to reach and help more students show growth, absolutely. So what we see is that that student growth is increasing in both of those content areas that were included in the study. So this next role that you all are going to have in Nash County Public Schools is the Team Reach Teacher role and the Master Team Reach Teacher role. And so these are rock star teachers who are on an MCL's team and they reach more students. And so what this means is that they usually have a track record of success. And because of that, they take on more students without actually increasing their class size ratio. That is offset through the use of that reach associate. The difference between the team reach teacher and the master team reach teacher role is that the master team reach teacher will also usually take on 1 or 2 adult leadership responsibilities to support that MCL. So that master team reach teacher could coach up to 1 teacher. They might also support with leading PLC meetings or data analysis as well. And that is really going to be up to the school and that design team to really clarify. All right, and so this is that team reach teacher role I was talking about, often abbreviated as TRT. They reach more students, and they also collaborate with that reach associate who is helping to offset those class size ratios. They meet with that reach associate regularly to really think about how they want them to really show up in small group instruction inside their classroom. Okay, and then here's that MTRT or master team reach teacher role. And so the key difference is that adult leadership component. And people often think about this MTRT role as the stepping stone to that MCL role. And both of these positions do earn more for extending their reach to more students. All right. And finally, this is the role that you all have heard me referencing. This is the reach associate role. This is a highly advanced paraprofessional who supports team reach teachers and MCLs. They support with classroom management, they support with small group instruction, really helping to keep everything with the OC design plan in place. I often say that reach associates are the glue of opportunity culture. A lot of our plans just don't work without highly effective reach associates. And so reach associates can do all of these things. Not only do they provide that release time for MCLs and TRTs, they are working with students one-on-one. They support skills practice, project work, digital learning. They also teach small groups as well as take on non-instructional duties to make sure that that MCL really has a lot of time to spend with students and teachers. All right. Okay, so that was a lot. You all have heard me say that all of these roles earn more. And so let's now dig into exactly what that looks like. And so here is the career ladder for Nash County Public Schools. We are so excited that there are different stipend amounts attached based on Title I, based on attrition, and then there's also a core stipend. And so let me help you all kind of navigate this just a bit. And so let's all zoom into MultiClassroom Leader 1. That MCL 1 is going to lead 2 to 3 teachers, and they have a core stipend of $8,000. Depending on the school that they are placed or that they're hired in, that will determine their Title I stipend amount. And so if they go to a Tier 1 Title I school, then they'll also be eligible for that $6,000. And depending on the attrition level of that school, determine that attrition stipend. If they go to a school whose attrition rate is about 6%, then they will qualify for that $750 amount. So what you'll do is you'll add that 8, 6, and $750 together to calculate their total OC stipend. And so you all can see that the stipends, Nash did a great job at making sure that these were attractive to really get the best talent in front of students to move the needle for student achievement. So I'm going to pause here to give you all time to look through the career ladder. I will say that it's important to remember that Title I and attrition rates can change year to year. So do keep that in mind. Okay. If you have questions, please drop those in the parking lot so that our team can respond to those. And there's that note that I just verbalized. All right. So the schools that are participating in OC this year, next year are listed here on the screen. These are all Tier 1 Title I schools based on the Title I funding amounts from this past school year. And so we've also put some examples on the screen of what specific roles would be paid in addition to their base salary if they were to teach at specific schools, just to give you all an idea of how those stipend amounts can look in a variety of settings. So take some time to read that. And again, if you have questions, please drop those questions in the parking lot for us. Our team is actually responding to all of those questions in real time. All right, we're recording, so we'll make sure that this recording is uploaded to NASH's website so that you all can refer back to it as well. All right, Claire.
Okay, great. We are moving right along, and I will share some information about hiring and selection. And then we'll get into a Q&A actually with Ashley, as she was a former multi-classroom leader for Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, and then we will close out. All right, so I'm about to give an overview of the district selection process. And as I do that, just want you to be noting any differences that you're noticing that might be different from the normal selection process that you're used to when it comes to these opportunity culture roles. And any questions that you have, please drop them in the parking lot so that we can answer those and further clarify. But the first step in this process is the central talent pool at the district level. So across all opportunity culture districts and in Nash County Public Schools, you all are using a central district talent pool for the MCL role, the MTRT role, and the RA role. And so the reason that there is this district or central talent pool is because it provides for, one, a rolling application process. It also provides for equity among the implementing schools. And this central talent pool really provides for a more rigorous and transparent and objective selection process. So you see some dates here, and this pool is going to open on April 11th, and it will be open for about 2 weeks through April 22nd. And if you are in the parking lot, you will see that I linked Nash's webpage, which is where you will find where to apply for this. And I also have a slide about it where we can drop that link in just a little bit. But if you're in the parking lot, you will see that that is linked there. And so once this district talent pool is open, there are other steps that are included in this selection process. So the first you see is that the district will conduct an initial screen. And so you see the dates for that are April 25th to the 27th. And then for candidates who move on past that initial screen, folks from the district are going to be conducting something called a behavioral event interview. And so this is a research-based interview technique that requires candidates, so those MCL candidates, MTRT candidates, and RA candidates, to explain past events in rich detail. It's a very unique, honestly pretty fun interview process. And so that will take place at the district level. Ideally, right now, the dates that are set are April 28th through May 4th. And then after that, the pool will be opened up to the schools, so to the principals, and principals then will conduct school level interviews to find the opportunity culture educators that are the best fits for each of their schools. And you see that that is opening on May 4th. So that is an overview, and I'm actually going to pass it off to Miss Nancy Smith to share a little bit more here, as well as if you want to share anything about the vision on this slide too.
Thank you so much. I joined Dr. Ellis in this excitement. In Nash County Public Schools, we commit ourselves to high quality academic and social experiences for all of our students. We believe in empowerment of our students as well as our teachers and all of our staff. And we work to do this every single day. We also believe in risk taking. We believe in innovative opportunities. And we think it's important that we think outside of the box to transform what teaching and learning will look like in our school district. It is paramount to district leadership that we're positioning ourselves to grow, recruit, and retain talent while providing our staff with professional development to strengthen their skills. We want to reimagine and we want to redefine our staff leadership roles and what they can look like while supporting you with an attractive career opportunity. The career ladder was shared with you, and we are committed to ensuring that these ladders are sustained. An opportunity culture supports our partnership and our vision of innovation, as well as teacher recruitment and offering a career ladder to keep our best teachers where they need to be, and that's closest to our students. I think the district selection process has been clear. Make sure you check your emails, because Tamia Braswell, who is with the Public Information's Office, will send out reminders to all staff, letting you know that the that the district talent pool is open when it closes. And most importantly, visit our Opportunity Culture website often.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much for sharing, Ms. Nancy Smith. And so yes, this is the district selection process. And so if you have questions about that, again, please put it in the parking lot. And like Ms. Nancy Smith said, be checking the webpage, as all of the upcoming events, the information that you need to know can be found on that NASH Opportunity Culture website. And so the last thing I shared was that the pool is open to principals on May 4th. So I'll speak a little bit more about what that school level selection process, what you can expect with that. So moving from district to school level, each school really has autonomy and is responsible for setting their parameters around this process. So what you see here, first, the pool is open to them on that May 4th date. And so principals will review the candidate pool and invite candidates to participate in a school level interview. And most likely in that interview, I'm just going to go ahead and click right through. Most likely in that interview, in person or virtual, whatever is happening in your district at this time, but those interviews will happen, and they most often, as you see here, include a skills demonstration activity. So thinking about that MCL role, maybe it's a mock coaching conversation, data analysis, something like that, because you have gone through the BEI where you are talking about your past experiences. And then at the school level, it's a chance to show your skills when it comes to what you will be doing in the role. And then by May 11th is what we are shooting for, is that principals will make their recommendations to HR. And so sort of along the same lines, that was the selection process, but what happens when you are in the role, whether it's MCL, MTRT, TRT, or RA? What happens once you're in the role? And there is ongoing development as you prepare to be in these roles, and then once you are in these roles. So just shared this with Ms. Nancy Smith and the team right before this meeting, but there is summer training that Public Impact provides. And so that is 3-day national virtual training, which is really awesome because you will meet people in your same role in North Carolina, but also in Texas and Arkansas and all the other places where we are, and make those connections. And that's 3-day, pretty intensive training of what you can expect in your role. And we will help you prepare for that. And then on the job development, we are right now working with school teams, working with principals to prepare them for that on the job development. So in our next session, we will be digging into scheduling and making sure MCLs have time in their schedules for weekly coaching with the school leader, that they are a part of that instructional leadership team. And then making sure MTRTs, RAs, TRTs, and team teachers are engaging in weekly coaching with the multi-classroom leader. And then we also offer professional learning that OC educators will be involved in. So all opportunity culture roles will join professional learning during the school year, and that is continued on the job development. And then we've mentioned it quite a bit. I'm not sure if the link has been dropped in the chat. I have it in the deck, Ashley, if you want to drop that. But these are some screenshots of the Opportunity Culture webpage for Nash County Public Schools. So like we said, this is going to be your one-stop shop for all things opportunity culture in the district. So it includes information about OC, how opportunity culture connects to the district's vision and core values, just as Dr. Ellis and Ms. Dancy Smith shared with us today, information about upcoming events, the job descriptions for every role that we've talked about. And then there is a link on there, and there will be a link on the 11th where you can apply for these positions. All right, and with that, we have, checking my time, yep, we have about 10, 12 minutes for a Q&A with Ashley Williams, who I mentioned. You just heard from her describing all the opportunity culture roles, and she's a co-client manager on this project. Okay. But prior to joining Public Impact, he is a former multi-classroom leader at Ranson Ivy Middle Schools and Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. So she's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to opportunity culture, and not only the MCL role, all of the roles. So I have 2 prepared questions to ask Ashley, and then I will open it up to you all for any questions that you have. But Ashley, my first question is around impact. So if you could speak to what was the impact of opportunity culture in your role as a multi-classroom leader on your teachers as well as on your students?
So I think for our school specifically, we had a lot of vacant positions before opportunity culture, close to 30 vacant positions in August of one year. And so I think a lot of principals will just work to get those positions filled, which is what we did during that time. But once we learned about opportunity culture, we were able to be very creative and strategic with staffing. And so instead of having these vacant positions, we were able to create what we called at the time expanded impact teaching positions, which is essentially a team reach teacher position who can take on more students, but this is a teacher who's highly qualified to do so. We also had a lot of new and beginning teachers at our school. And so we created MCL teams in all of our core content areas throughout the entire school. I think we had about 8 MCLs at one point, and that really helped teachers to know that they had that support that they needed. And so instead of the principal and assistant principals really only getting to classrooms, a couple of times a year, MCLs were able to support teachers at all times. I remember I had a first year teacher on my team, and she really needed help with delivering instruction. I was able to teach her first period class, and she was able to kind of really observe and take notes. Then we would debrief, and then she felt really comfortable teaching for the rest of the day. And so we did that occasionally based on the content, but that was not just secluded to that one classroom. That kind of thing happened all the time, where MCLs and teachers really partnered together to make sure that they felt supported, and we made sure that the students also felt supported.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. My second question before we open it up is just thinking as a former multi-classroom leader, and then just thinking of people who have had other educational roles. From your perspective, what would you describe as the main difference between the MCL role and an instructional coach role, for example?
So we had both in our building. And we all kind of worked collaboratively to make sure that teachers and students' needs were met. I will say that the one key difference was that accountability portion. So at the time, I was actually responsible not only for the teachers, but for the students. So when those EVOS reports came out, it had all the teachers who were on the team that I led, those names were there, but also my name was there as well. And I was attached to all 300 plus students in those teachers' teams. I would say that's the biggest thing. Both provide really quality support. I think the MCL role is different from accountability, but also because those teams are usually a lot smaller. And so a lot of times we see MCL teams that are supporting 3 teachers or 4 teachers or 8 teachers, and they're really focused on specific content areas. So they can go deep in those standards, they can go deep with their support to really make sure that teachers feel like they have what they need, but also they get to know the students really closely and build those really quality relationships.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I would say I agree from what we see also in other sites. Those 2 key differences really come to life about accountability and team size, MCLs being able to really focus on a very small subset of teachers. Awesome. Okay. Now I would like to open it up to all of you on the line. Please do not be shy. If you have a question, Ashley is here to answer it. And so if you have a question, please feel free to come off mute and ask it. It can be about opportunity culture more broadly. It can be about her experience. Whatever question that you have, feel free to come off mute and ask.
So could you give us, hi, Kim Saraki here. Can you give us like an example, a very detailed example of what it would look like when a teacher has those extra classes? What the day looked like? Was it a rotating basis? And I know like you're probably gonna say like each school does it a little differently, but just to give a general idea.
So are you speaking more from the partial release MCL or like a master team reach teacher?
I guess all of the above. Like, I feel that it was just great scratching the surface, but when you have no background in it, there's so many unknowns, you don't even know what to ask because it's just all unknown.
Of course. So with our partial release MCLs, since they need release time during the day to support their teachers, sometimes this looks like them teaching their classes in the morning and supporting their team teachers in the afternoon. I would say that that is more feasible at the secondary level when they only have certain periods of content areas to teach. From an elementary level, what this usually looks like is them having a very detailed schedule as to when that reach associate will support during the day and when they'll be able to get released to support their teachers. And so what it usually looks like is that MTRT or TRT will lead introduction to new material. They will also lead like a guided practice, but any independent practice that's inside of the lesson, usually the reach associate can support students with that, while the MTRT or MCL has more time to support their teachers. From a TRT standpoint, these teachers who take on more students, I think it's on a school by school basis as to exactly how many more students they support. But we do really emphasize to schools that they need a reach associate to support them with those class sizes. And so in some cases, this could mean a TRT taking on 30 students, which could be an increase of 5 students. We still recommend a reach associate to support in those situations, just to make sure classroom management and things like that are really solid. Hope that answered your question a little bit.
Yes, a little bit. No, I appreciate it. Please, no, I do appreciate it.
All right.
And you say that this is supposed to be done, I guess, another thing was you had mentioned about content. And again, this might be more of a school-based question, but like in a middle school, the teachers could have several different contents. So is it up to the school and the district then to determine if like a teacher was to go in and help other teachers? More than likely, it's not going to be within the same content because these schools are very small.
Yeah, that really just depends on the focus of the school. So right now, schools are making their design plans and they have a theory of action with measures of success, really saying, here's where our school currently is, and here's where we want them to be after OC. Some schools are focusing really closely on reading. Other schools are focusing really closely on math. It just depends. But based on that theory of action, they will then design a staffing plan. And they'll say, if our focus is reading, then we really want an MCL in reading to support these teachers. So that is determined on a school by school basis.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you for getting us started. Are there any other questions? We have time for probably 2 more, maybe more. If anyone else has any questions.
Sarah Burke, when you start working with a set of teachers, is that like for the year or does that rotate in and out depending on school needs? Or is it like kind of set, like these teachers, you're going to focus on these for the year?
Good question. Because of the accountability requirements, it usually is for the entire year. I would say in cases where it's not for the entire year would be for some of our high schools, which I don't believe Nash is planning to implement any high schools next year. But it's usually you're attached to a team of teachers for the entire year. Now, in the next years, those teams could change just depending on what the data says and what the needs of the students and staff are. Good question. What other questions do you all have about opportunity culture?
I've got one. Sherry Mennick from Englewood. So just following up on that, in your experience of doing this, how many teachers would return to that same role the following year?
The MCL role?
Correct.
Yep. So I don't think we have exact data on the number of MCLs that return. It hasn't been something that we've monitored over the years, but what I can say is I know of many MCLs who have been MCLs since the very start of when we actually started rolling this out. So we have MCLs who have been in those roles for 8 years, 9 years. It's not, I will also say that it depends on how they're actually impacting students. So the thing to know about the MCL role, because this is a role that is in place to move the needle for students, we want to make sure that it's actually living into that. And so many MCLs are able to be successful in that, right? But there's also going to be a role renewal process that folks will learn more about this summer. And so these are the things that we want to be true in order for MCLs to continue in their roles year after year. And you all will learn about the details of that sometime this summer.
So I guess my question would be directed more to Dr. Ellis, and he may not have this information yet. So instead of a teacher having a 2 or 3 year contract, it would be a 1 year contract then?
So I think we're gonna have to work some of that out, but I think it would be just a regular teacher contract. As far as I would see, it would be just a regular teacher contract.
Dr. Ellis, you are absolutely right. It would be a regular teacher contract. We will look at your years of experience, just as we do now when we issue contracts. The stipulation is that you will work for Nash County Public Schools, just as you do now, Ms. Mennick. But in the MCL role, If you're hired for that position and you're not making an impact, you will continue to be an employee with Nash County Public Schools, but not in that particular role. So that's no different from a lot of the positions that we have now, including the position that I'm in.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? These are all great. All right, I will ask Ashley a final question before we wrap up. So Ashley, just thinking if, and you once were in the shoes of these potential multi-classroom leaders, master team reach teachers, or reach associates on the line, can you share what you wish you had known, or just like what your biggest lesson learned is?
That is a great question. I would say that, you know, as a classroom teacher, you are used to working with students and working with kids. But moving into an MCL role is a shift because now you're working with adults. And so I would just say not to underestimate the preparation that shift requires, right? And that relationships, just as they are important with students, are also equally as important with adults. Nothing gets done without having a relationship. Teachers are, they like to partner with MCLs. They don't want to, they want to make sure it's a really collaborative relationship. And I will say that the sooner that you get in to know your team teachers, to know like what their career goals are and how you can support them, the more successful MCLs usually are.
Great. Thank you for sharing. And if you all have questions, again, making a plug for the parking lot, feel free to drop them there and we will continue to answer. But I will go ahead and close us out. So again, thank you all so much for joining this session. We hope that it was really helpful for you all and that some of those initial questions that you have, that they are getting answered through the parking lot or through Ashley's Q&A, and that you are utilizing that opportunity culture webpage on Nash's website. It will continue to be updated and have information for you all, including those applications on the 11th. So bookmark that, whatever you do, and make sure that you're checking it to find that most up-to-date information. Before I close us out, or this is me closing us out, want to open it up to either Dr. Ellis or Ms. Jancy Smith, if you have anything else that you would like to share before we end our time today.
All I'm going to say is this is a lot of information at one time for a 45, 50-minute session. I would just encourage everyone that's interested to go to the website. We've got a lot of information you can just pull from and start getting some ideas of what this is really going to look like. And then just encourage you to apply if you're interested, because I think it's going to be a very good opportunity for very good teachers. So good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes. And so again, thank you all so much. If you continue to have questions, the next slide I'm going to show has our email addresses. Feel free to take a picture of this, write it down. And if you have questions, you can of course email us. We are working closely with the district, with the schools, and know a lot about opportunity culture. So any questions that you have, feel free to email us. That is totally fine. And we are more than happy to answer or help you get the answer. So do not hesitate to reach out to us if needed. And again, thank you all so much. We're ending a few minutes early, so we will stay on the line. And if you have questions, feel free to stay on and ask. Otherwise, enjoy your Thursday afternoon and have a great weekend.